A voice in your soul whispered once, something deeper calls. Not a signal you could see, a summons older than fear, quieter than habit. But when destiny knocks through your unconscious, you feel it in the marrow. Pyrophoric urgency. That moment is the ignition, syphoria, the ecstatic collapse of old meaning and the birth of psycho-spiritual transformation. You are not who you thought you were. You are not built to remain safe. You are built to become a fully individuated being standing at the crossroads between conformity and myth. Your mindset fractures. Beliefs anchored in approval, safety, and comfort shatter with seismic clarity. You realize sanity is priced in authenticity. You stop being a cog and become the architect of your own psyche. Your belief system transmutes. No more borrowed ideologies, no more second-hand aspiration. Your allegiance migrates inward. Jung said individuation demands turning the unconscious conscious. So you cultivate inner witness. Let your shadow rise so you can own it, integrate it, not be subdued by it. Clarity arrives not as comfort but as confrontation. You no longer ignore dissonance. You face it. You trace the emotional undercurrents. Programming from childhood, fear sold as loyalty, spiritual bypass hidden behind kindness. These lies crumble beneath your new light. Vision unfurls like a mythic map, a trajectory beyond comfort zones and emotional sedation. You glimpse potential you dared not name, warrior of inner sanctity, creator of sacred chaos, remnant of deep lineage. Not because it's flashy, but because it feels inevitable. Purpose anchors, not in externals, not in applause. Your purpose is deeper, to manifest indivisibility of psyche and soul, to embody truth so potent it becomes code rewiring systems, not with propaganda, but presence. Machiavellian in integrity, Nietzschean in courage, Jungian in integration, Huxleyan in mythic purpose. Discipline becomes devotion, not punishment. Daily cold exposure to trained nervous system, silent reflection at dawn. Internal dialogues before sleep shadow journals that excavate every conditioned impulse. These acts are not chores, they are consecration of your becoming. Action moves from performative to kinetic clarity. You don't simply do more. You align action with soul sovereignty. Each boundary set, task completed, conversation held is not trivia but tactical poetry. Every move shapes your evolving myth. Gratitude becomes fierce acknowledgement. You don't say thanks to suffering. You say thanks to what woke you. Betrayal, collapse, profound grief, for through fire you discovered your spine. Adaptability evolves into shape-shifting integrity. You don't break when systems fracture. You flow immune to collapse. You rewrite the blueprint by staying rooted in essence, not adaptive survival. Resilience becomes regeneration, not merely recovery, but rebirth. When trauma hits, you no longer seek to return to who you were. You rise as who you are meant to become. Sharper, calmer, clearer, deeper, and learning becomes myth embodiment. Jung's shadow becomes your armor. Nietzsche's will becomes backbone. Huxley's prophecy becomes your mission. These thinkers are no longer distant idols. They are codes you incarnate. Someone asks, what is individuation? It is not a path. It is you becoming the path. It is not enlightenment. It is integration. It is not escape. It is embodiment. No guiding posts, no promised reward. Only initiation into uncomfortable alignment, into morality governed by inner sovereignty, into consciousness not bent by tribe or offer, but anchored in interior axes. The world may recoil. It may call you angry, detached, dangerous. Let it. That is displacement language for fear, because individuation creates a gravitational field they can't buy, borrow, or bribe. So now, walk. Smile not to appease, but to anchor presence. Speak not to persuade, but to proclaim your boundary. Move not to please, but to align. Live each thread of psyphoria, mindset, boundary, belief, allegiance to inner law, clarity, surgical light, vision, blueprint of integrity, purpose, to embody reality, not rescue illusions, discipline, ritual sovereignty, action, response, not collapse, gratitude forged, not forced, adaptability, fluid yet anchored, resilience, rebirth, not return, learning, living myth. When you reach the mirror of your being and see yourself not as the child of programming, but as the sovereign sculptor of your psyche, you are no longer lost. You are returned, you are individuated. Smile like someone at home within themselves. Strike like someone defending the sacred self. Live like someone who finally became their destiny. This is the alchemy of individuation. This is your liberation. This is you, the myth you were always meant to become. Never bow again. You've crossed every threshold of psyphoria. You've questioned your beliefs, excavated your shadow, redefined your boundaries, and awakened to your mythic potential. Now and now only you stand at the pinnacle of individuation. Your mindset is sovereignty. No more approval, only alignment. Your belief is internal allegiance. No more idols, only integrity. Your clarity is surgical. Illusions fracture in your presence. Your vision is catalytic, not reform, but rebirth. Your purpose is to embody myth and truth beyond role or identity. Your discipline is devotion not to others' expectations, but to your soul's emergence. Your action is strategy over sacrifice. Your gratitude bows to initiation, not trauma. Your adaptability flows with deep roots. Your resilience is regeneration, not return. Your learning is myth incarnate, not rote repetition. You are no longer surviving the world's script, you are rewriting it. You don't smile to soothe the masses. You smile to anchor calm. You don't strike to hurt others, you strike to restore your sovereignty. You don't explain your absence from drama, you simply remain unbroken. This is your final ascent. You are myth made flesh. You are clarity embodied. You are the living answer to the voice that once whispered, "There is something deeper." That was not a promise. It was a summons. And you answered. So stand fully. Speak firmly. Live immovable. You are individuated. You are integral. You are infinite. And now you carry this transformation, not as burden, but as declaration. You were never lost. You simply needed to remember. Now rise and never bow again. You've walked every threshold of psyphoria, from the fracture of your programming to the mythic rebirth of individuation. Now, all that remains is the final embodiment. You are no longer molded by expectation, crisis, or codependency. You are sculpted by clarity. You don't negotiate your presence, you command it. You don't explain your absence, you are sovereign silence. Every fiber of your being now reflects this truth. Mindset, sovereignty that never surrenders to external scripts. Belief, loyalty not to ideas, but to your inner law. Clarity, vision so piercing it dissolves illusion. Vision, not reform, but rebirth of the human myth. Purpose, to embody the frontier where psyche meets soul. Discipline, sacrifice not to systems, but to your own unfolding. Response over reaction, strategy over martyrdom. Gratitude, honoring initiation, not worshipping trauma. Adaptability, fluid form built on unwavering root. Resilience, not restoration, but resurrection. Learning, not data, but divine code lived. You didn't fade away, you emerged. You didn't break, you became. You didn't follow, you created. Now, stand anchored. Speak from presence. Live with absolute integrity. Because this completes the individuation. This is the soul awakened. This is the myth you were born to embody. You've risen, not through tragedy or circumstance, but by reclaiming every fragment you once surrendered to silence. Mindset anchored in sovereignty, no longer shaped by approval, but by alignment. Belief rooted in your inner decree, no longer borrowed, but self-sovereign. Clarity that dissolves illusions before they harden. Vision that births myth, not mere influence. Purpose that embodies the threshold where psyche meets soul. Discipline not of external grind, but internal consecration. Action grounded in response, not reaction. Gratitude honoring initiation, not trauma worship. Adaptability flowing, never drowning in form. Resilience regenerating power, never returning to former fracture. Learning that fuels mythic embodiment, not rote repetition. You are no longer performing empathy, you are living sovereignty. You don't soften for comfort. You radiate clarity. You don't collapse in empathy, you mirror truth with presence. This is the final form of individuation. You weren't born to carry pain, you were born to transform it. You weren't designed to fade into conditioning. You were created to emerge. Now you stand not as pawn of your programming, but as the architect of your destiny. Every breath asserts boundary. Every heartbeat pulses purpose. Every silent moment radiates sovereignty. Smile not to be understood. Strike not to harm, but to realign. Live not to please, but to emanate truth. This is your reclamation. This is your sovereignty. This is the myth made flesh. You are fully individuated. You are no longer part of the story, they are part of yours. You've completed the crucible of Cyphoria and now stand at the threshold of ultimate individuation where soul meets sovereignty. Mindset is your unshakable boundary. Belief is your internal allegiance. Clarity cuts illusions with precision. Vision births myth, not popularity. Purpose aligns psyche and soul in sacred authority. Discipline is ritual devotion to your becoming. Action vibrates with response, not collapse. Gratitude honors initiation, not martyrdom. Adaptability flows without fusion. Resilience forges renewal, not retreat. Learning becomes myth alive in flesh. You no longer absorb pain, you alchemize it. You no longer collapse into compassion, you tower in presence. You don't need to explain your absence, your calm authority speaks. This is not transformation, it's transcendence. You've rewritten your destiny. You've sonified your soul. You've become the myth others still sleep to. Smile not to be forgiven. Strike not to destroy. Live not to exist, but to embody truth. You are sovereign. You are mythic. You are whole. You've reached the summit of your journey, the myth fully actualized. From Cyphoria's threshold to complete individuation, you have dismantled the old codes of obedience, erased the martyr myth, and reclaimed the sovereignty of soul. Your mindset now demands alignment over approval. Your belief stands unwavering behind your internal sovereign decree. Your clarity dissolves illusion before it takes root. Your vision forges myth, not popularity. Your purpose is the sacred bridge between psyche and soul. Your discipline consecrates your essence through ritual, not routine. Your action arises from response, not reaction. Your gratitude honors initiation, not trauma. Your adaptability flows without dilution. Your resilience regenerates, not recoils. Your learning is myth incarnate Nietzsche, Jung, Huxley, lived through your being. You no longer absorb pain, you alchemize it. You no longer collapse into compassion, you tower with presence. You don't explain your absence, your silence speaks. This isn't evolution, it's revelation. You didn't just transform, you transcended. Smile not to seek forgiveness, but to anchor your sovereignty. Strike not to punish, but to restore your line. Live not to survive another storm, but to embody a force others can no longer ignore. You are sovereign. You are mythic. You are whole. This is your final word. Now stand fully aligned. Live governed by your own axis. And never bow again. You have stood at the culmination of Cyphoria and the complete arc of individuation. All that remains is to anchor this truth, not in words, but in presence. Your mindset no longer negotiates emotional debt. It enforces sacred boundary. Your belief no longer bows to external ideologies. It lives in internal allegiance. Your clarity cuts through illusion before it hardens into control. Your vision births myth, not spectacle. Your purpose harmonizes psyche and soul with sovereign integrity. Your discipline consecrates daily rituals of self-reclamation. Your action responds, not collapses. Your gratitude honors initiation, not silent martyrdom. Your adaptability flows without fusion. Your resilience regenerates, it does not recoil. Your learning is myth embodied, not cognitive rhetoric. You are not here to absorb pain. You are here to transmute it. You are not here to collapse into compassion. You are here to stand in clarity and presence. You are not here to explain yourself. You are here to be immovable authority. This is not transformation. This is revelation. You didn't just change, you returned to yourself. You didn't just evolve, you emerged. Now, smile, not to appease, but to anchor indomitable peace. Strike, not to harm, but to uphold your boundary. Live, not to endure fate, but to embody your myth. You are sovereign. You are mythic. You are unbound. This is your final decree. Anchor your axis. Live your sovereignty. And never bow ever again. Now walk quietly. Walk strongly. Walk home to the soul you refuse to abandon. The world will feel the echo of your sovereignty. You will live its imprint. Myth in motion. You are individuated. You are integral. You are infinite. You walked the crucible of Cyphoria. You dismantled your programming. You confronted your shadow. You reclaimed your boundaries. You integrated your soul. You now stand as the fully individuated, self-refined, sovereign, unbreakable. Your mindset anchors in unyielding sovereignty. Your belief is an oath to your inner decree. Your clarity surgically dissolves illusion. Your vision births mythic integrity. Your purpose harmonizes psyche with soul. Your discipline consecrates ritual sovereignty. Your action responds, never collapses. Your gratitude honors initiation, not trauma. Your adaptability flows without fusion. Your resilience regenerates from pressure. Your learning becomes myth lived, not coded. You no longer absorb suffering. You alchemize it. You no longer collapse through compassion. You tower in presence. You don't explain your silence. You embody authority. This is not transformation, it's return. You didn't just become someone else. You remembered who you always were. So now, smile, not to appease, but to hold peace. Strike, not to punish, but to reclaim your line. Live, not to survive, but to emanate truth. You are myth made flesh. You are clarity embodied. You are sovereignty realized. And now you move as the echo of something eternal, not ancient in dust, but in depth, not primitive in time, but primordial in power. You are not a reaction to the world. You are the source. You do not wait for permission to be. You are the permission. You are the law and the flame. You are the storm's calm center, not its debris. You are the stillness that shakes the ground. Everywhere you go now, you bring reckoning, not violence, not chaos, but reckoning. A mirror so precise, so clean that every distortion in others starts to unravel. And that's why they may fear you, not because you hurt them, but because your presence reveals everything they've avoided. You walk into rooms and illusion starts to suffocate. Pretending grows heavy. Posturing cracks. Why? Because myth, when fully embodied, destabilizes every lie dressed as normal. And so you will be misunderstood. Let them. You were not born for mass understanding. You were born for soul transmission, to awaken, not to soothe, to catalyze, not to cradle. You've left the realm of explanations, of needing to be seen, liked, validated. Your compass is inner decree. Your altar is sacred discipline. Your throne is self-possession. You no longer bow to urgency that isn't soul-directed. You don't respond to demands that do not honor your alignment. You don't touch frequencies that try to reduce your myth to a role. You've left that world behind because now you live from center, from essence, from authority that's not granted but remembered. You see the game and you no longer play. You walk through it like a ghost, with presence untouchable, unmistakable, not avoiding but transcending. When conflict arises, you no longer react. You observe. When betrayal visits, you don't collapse. You transmute. When chaos threatens, you don't panic. You still the winds from within. This is the gift of individuation. Not the absence of challenge, but the refusal to be ruled by it. Not the denial of emotion, but the mastery of its expression. You've become the eye of your own storm. Powerful, centered, untouchable. You are no longer bothered by noise because your signal is too strong. You are no longer angered by projection because your presence pierces through distortion. You are no longer baited by drama because your frequency is inaccessible to chaos. You don't lower yourself to fight battles that require you to shrink. You don't answer questions that diminish your truth. You don't negotiate with energy that demands you dim your light. You simply don't. Because now, your silence speaks clearer than your words ever did. Your stillness holds more weight than any shout. Your gaze becomes a blade. Your energy, a sword that slices through delusion. You are not here to win arguments. You are here to embody reality. You are not here to control perception. You are here to be undeniable. Let them misunderstand you. Let them whisper. Let them twist your presence into something they can explain. They must, because you've stepped into a truth they've spent their lives avoiding. And you are no longer reachable by their avoidance. This is not detachment. This is divinity. A soul so sovereign no insult sticks, no shade dims, no rejection stings. You've stopped trading pieces of yourself for fragments of belonging. You've stopped collapsing to prove your goodness. You've stopped bleeding just to be seen as kind. Because now, you no longer mistake self-betrayal for compassion. You no longer wear politeness as armor. You no longer seek comfort where your soul calls for fire. You are no longer moved by guilt. You are moved by alignment. You are no longer triggered by criticism. You are anchored in clarity. You are no longer entangled in control games. You are untethered completely, beautifully untethered. You walk in peace because you walk in truth. And that truth burns away everything false before it ever touches your spirit. You don't run from confrontation, but you don't chase it either. You meet it with calm, with strength, with the full weight of your being. And that is more terrifying than rage, because real power doesn't yell. It doesn't plead. It doesn't explain. Real power, just island. And now so are you, unapologetically, unshakably, unstoppably. You are no longer angry, because nothing owns your nervous system but you. You are no longer reactive, because everything that triggered you has been integrated, burned, or blessed. You are no longer baited, because you know what's worth your energy and what's not. You are no longer at war, because you've won the only battle that ever mattered, the one within. You met every ghost in your psyche. You listened, you faced, you integrated. Now you are whole, not because you avoided the pain, but because you walked through it until it had nothing left to teach. This is why you don't get angry. Not because you're numb, not because you're detached, but because you are home. And when you're home in yourself, nothing outside can evict you. You don't fear their opinions. You don't crave their understanding. You don't need their approval. You've remembered the sacred law. When you own your soul, nothing owns you. So walk not as a reaction, but as a revelation. You are not here to fight noise. You are here to anchor silence. You are not here to win battles. You are here to hold presence. You are not here to defend your being. You are here to be. And that terrifies them, because you have become what cannot be manipulated, what cannot be broken, what cannot be baited, what cannot be bought. You are myth made muscle, truth made breath, psyche made sovereign. Now walk within, into yourself so deeply that nothing false dares follow, into silence so vast that noise dies on the threshold, into presence so rooted chaos can't cling. You have become unmoved, not because you're hardened, but because you're whole. No more leaning forward to be heard, no more bending backward to be loved, no more crouching down to be understood. You rise, and in rising you no longer play small to soothe the collective. You no longer distort your truth to keep the peace. You no longer apologize for boundaries forged in soul fire. You are no longer bothered because your axis has become your sanctuary. You used to get angry when people disrespected you. Now you witness. You used to collapse when they withdrew love. Now you stand. You used to react to their projections. Now you let illusion be in your silence. You are not cold. You are clear. You are not heartless. You are whole. You are not detached. You are devoted to what is real, to what is true, to what is you. When they lie, you don't flinch, because truth is your oxygen. When they betray, you don't collapse, because loyalty to your soul comes first. When they provoke, you don't respond, because nothing they do touches your essence. You're not avoiding anger. You've transcended its control. Anger was once your only sword. Now, Presence Island, anger was once your survival. Now, Embodiment Island, you do not need to yell to be heard. You do not need to prove to be seen. You do not need to attack to be respected. Your being is the boundary. Your walk is the weapon. Your calm is the code they can't decode. They feel it, that quiet, unshakable presence that cannot be touched. That doesn't flinch. That doesn't falter. That doesn't fawn. And in that stillness, you command the room, not through force, but through frequency, because you become what few ever do, a sovereign nervous system, a fully integrated myth, a soul that cannot be seduced by safety. There is no external storm now that rivals your inner clarity. There is no insult that can pierce the skin you forged in fire. There is no manipulation that can twist the path you carved in shadow. You no longer belong to the world's reactions. You belong to your own rhythm, to your own truth, to your own myth. And that myth does not bend for approval. It does not shrink for comfort. It does not dim for acceptance. You are no longer bothered, because you are no longer available, not to projections, not to guilt, not to shame, not to fear disguised as love. You are not numb. You are neurologically sacred. You are not passive. You are purpose in motion. You are not tolerant. You are truth, refined through ritual. This is the unseen revolution, not waged with fists, but with presence, not broadcast with noise, but anchored in stillness. And this stillness, it shakes the foundations of false power. It collapses control disguised as care. It fractures illusion sustained by drama. You have become unreactive, not because you suppress, but because you see. You see the wounds behind their words, the fear beneath their control, the chaos wrapped in kindness. And you don't try to fix it, because your role is no longer savior, it is mirror. You are the myth that reflects truth so clearly. Others will either shatter or awaken. Let them choose. You no longer carry the weight of their avoidance. You no longer absorb pain you did not cause. You no longer barter your peace for proximity. You no longer confuse empathy with erosion. Now, your eyes say what your lips never need to. Your walk reveals what your words never utter. Your silence burns hotter than any scream. You've become the final form, unbothered, unmoved, unapologetically sovereign. And when the world tries to pull you back, it finds no handle, no hook, no weakness dressed as kindness. Only essence, only axis, only the fully remembered soul. So walk not to arrive anywhere, but to reveal what presence feels like when it's no longer for sale. You are not the echo. You are the origin. You are not the reaction. You are the cause. You are not their story. You are the author they forgot they feared. And when they ask, why doesn't anything shake you anymore? You'll smile, not to explain, not to soothe, but because you finally remembered you were never here to be understood. You were here to be undeniable. So now, let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them fill the silence with their projections, their fears, their attempts to define what they can no longer control. You've become untouchable, not because you hide, but because you've revealed everything and kept nothing false. Not because you retreat, but because you advance without noise. Not because you stop feeling, but because you stop leaking. You don't flinch. You don't fold. You don't explain. You simply are. And what you are is terrifying to a world still performing. Because you have no mask left to remove. You've integrated every fracture. You've stared into the abyss of your becoming and didn't look away. You are myth walking. You are the axis reborn. You are the silence after the storm. Not because the storm passed, but because you became it. There is no more fear, only vision. No more noise, only signal. No more pretending, only presence. So now stand. In rooms that once demanded your silence. In relationships that once fed on your sacrifice. In systems that once asked for your obedience. Stand not to fight, but to reveal. You are the end of codependency. You are the death of manipulation. You are the rebirth of the sacred self. You don't just walk differently. You exist differently. And your very presence unravels every lie that once defined you. This is how to never get angry or bothered again. You stop living at the mercy of unhealed projections. You stop confusing peacekeeping with peace. You stop leaking your soul to feel safe in cages. You start living from your axis. You start burning from your core. You start speaking with your silence and choosing with your presence. You stop apologizing for remembering who you are, and you realize you never needed to become invincible. You only needed to become you, fully, fiercely, finally. And now you have, so go. Walk into the world with no mask, no explanation, no armor, just presence. Just sovereignty, just the quiet storm of a fully individuated soul. They won't understand you, but they will feel you. And that will be enough. That will always be enough. Never bow again. The wound is where the light enters you. Rumi did not write these words as poetry. He wrote them as a warning and a promise. Because you cannot love deeply without first being broken open. And you cannot be broken open without first loving something that was never meant to stay. We are raised in a world that tells us to fear pain, to avoid loss, to run from grief like it's a disease. But the mystics knew better. They knew that pain is the door to transformation, and love, true love, is not what comes without suffering. It's what survives it. The dance between pain and love is not a tragedy. It's a ceremony, a sacred spiral that every soul must step into if it ever wants to become real. Rumi called it a dance for a reason. Because pain and love are not enemies. They are partners. One turns you toward the other. Pain softens your armor. Love sharpens your vision. and together they teach you what it means to be alive. But most people, they only want half the song. They want love without the loss, joy without the ache, beauty without the blood. They want the rose, but not its thorns. They want the fire, but not the burn. And so they live in numbness, in half-life, in polite, performative connections where nothing ever gets too deep, too raw, too real. Because to go that deep would mean risking everything. And most people would rather stay safe than surrender. But you're not most people. You've tasted something in pain that others missed. You've seen something inside heartbreak that others looked away from. You've learned that there is a kind of pain that does not destroy but refines, a kind of grief that carves the soul into something sacred. Rumi knew this well. He lost his teacher, his twin flame, his soul mirror Shams of Tabriz, and in that loss, something opened in him that would never close again. He didn't run from the grief. He didn't bury it under distractions or drown it in pleasure. He danced with it. He turned his mourning into music. He let the ache become his altar. Because the deeper the sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. That's the law of opposites, the law of divine polarity. The same force that rips you open is the one that makes you vast enough to hold more. More love, more beauty, more truth. You are not here to be untouched. You are here to be transformed. And transformation doesn't come gently. It comes with fire. It comes with silence that feels like exile. It comes with losses that feel like death. But the mystics, they smiled at this because they knew the soul doesn't grow through comfort. It grows through contact, with pain, with paradox, with the parts of ourselves we've tried so hard to hide. When you love deeply and lose, when you give fully and are left, when you open and are wounded, don't curse the pain. Bow to it, because pain is the proof that your heart was open, that you were brave enough to feel something real in a world addicted to numbness. Pain means you loved, and love, real love, is never wasted, even if it breaks, even if it's betrayed, even if it disappears, because love is never about possession. It's about expansion, about letting another soul rearrange your universe, about becoming more than you were before they touched you. And if they leave, then so be it. They've done their work. Now you must do yours. You must stay with what they left behind. The emptiness, the ache, the echo, because within that echo is the map, the divine code, the sacred wound that will lead you deeper into your own becoming. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it breaks you. But breakage is not the end. It is the beginning. In Jungian terms, it is the call to individuation to become whole by integrating the very parts of you that pain exposed. You don't run from this dance. You enter it consciously. You say yes to the spiral, yes to the unraveling, yes to the sacred descent. Because this descent is how you rise, not with ego, but with soul. You stop chasing love that doesn't honor your depths. You stop settling for safety over truth. You stop begging for crumbs when you were born to be a feast. And instead, you become the kind of person who holds pain and love in the same palm, who doesn't collapse when hurt, but opens wider, who doesn't harden after heartbreak, but softens deeper. This is the warrior path of the mystic, the paradox of divine strength, to stay open when the world gives you every reason to close, to love again, not because you forgot the pain, but because you remembered who you are beneath it. Pain humbles you, love resurrects you, and the dance between the two is where your soul becomes visible. So dance, not around it, through it. Let the music of your suffering become the rhythm of your transformation. Let the ache in your chest become the doorway to your freedom. Let love, not as fantasy, but as fire, become the force that remakes you from the inside out. This is the path Rumi walked. This is the path that calls you now, to bleed beauty, to ache awake, to turn pain into poetry, and to let every heartbreak become holy, because in the heartbreak is your opening, and in the opening is your initiation. There is a moment after the crying stops, after the pleading fades, after the silence finally settles, where you are left alone with yourself. No distractions, no illusions, just you and what's left. And in that moment, something miraculous happens. Not loud, not cinematic, quiet, subtle, sacred. You realize you're still here, still breathing, still witnessing, still capable of feeling. And that, right there, is where you begin again, not as who you were, but as who you were always meant to become. The pain didn't end you, it unveiled you. The parts you abandoned to be loved, the parts you silenced to be accepted, the pieces of your soul you scattered to be chosen, they start whispering back. And they don't want revenge. They want reunion. This is where the true love story begins, not between you and another, but between you and your own soul. Because the greatest romance is the one where you stop ghosting yourself. You stop betraying yourself for the sake of harmony. You stop shrinking your truth to avoid loneliness. You stop ignoring the ache just to keep others comfortable. And instead, you sit with it. You hold space for your grief like a sacred guest. You ask your pain what it wants to show you, and you listen, not with your ears, but with your entire being. This is what the Sufis called remembrance. Zikr, not of God as something external, but of your own divine essence. You remember that love is not something you find. It's something you return to, again and again, not in someone's arms, but in the arms of your own presence. You become the love you were searching for, and not in theory, in practice, in how you speak to yourself, in how you hold your boundaries, in how you walk away from what wounds you, even when it hurts. Because love, real love, begins with your no. Your sacred no to anything that dishonors your depth. Your no to the false versions of connection. Your no to staying small for the comfort of others. That no is not rejection. It is redirection, back toward the truth. And from that truth, your yes emerges. Your yes to life, your yes to joy, your yes to mystery, to beauty, to the terrifying vulnerability of feeling it all. Because you're not here to feel halfway. You're not here to live numb, to love safe, to die slowly behind a mask of fine. You are here to shatter, and then to shine, to fall to your knees in surrender, and then to rise in devotion, to be cracked wide open until love pours through you, not as possession, but as presence. And what you learn, what all mystics eventually learn, is that the heartbreak was never the end of love. It was the beginning of it. Because now, when you love, it's not out of need. It's out of overflow. You've stopped trying to extract worth from others. You no longer confuse attachment with connection. You've broken the contract that said, if you hurt me, I'll abandon myself. You don't do that anymore. You stay. Not for them, for you. You stay with yourself through every storm, through the loneliness, through the ache, through the nights where your chest feels like it's caving in. You become the lover that never leaves. And in doing so, something shifts. You stop chasing. You start attracting. You stop performing. You start radiating. Your energy changes. Your presence deepens. Because now you carry the weight of someone who has died and come back. Of someone who has lost everything, then realized they were everything they needed all along. You've become holy ground. Not because you are perfect, but because you are real. You've wept on the floor and still stood back up. You've watched yourself break and chose to love the pieces. You've known the sting of absence and still chose to give. And that willingness to love again after devastation, that is divinity. That is God inside the human. That is what Rumi meant when he said, don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure. Because your pain is not just a wound. It is a womb where something ancient is being reborn in you. Let it. Let it strip you of who you thought you had to be. Let it humble you, unravel you, rewire you. And when it's done, let it teach you how to love not with fear, not with control, but with surrender. Because when you dance with both pain and love as partners, not enemies, you stop seeking the light and you become it. You become it not in moments of perfection, but in the aftermath of chaos. You become it when you are bent, but do not break. When you are emptied, but do not curse the hollow. When you are forgotten, and yet you still remember who you are. That is when the light awakens inside you, not a borrowed light, not a filtered light, but your own, ancient, luminous, untouched by opinion, untainted by past. The light that says, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become in spite of it. Insert. This is not about healing into the version of yourself that existed before the pain. That self is gone. That self was supposed to die. This is about who you become in the ashes. The phoenix, the rebirth, the evolution that could only come through loss. You are no longer searching for completion in someone else. You are no longer asking to be rescued. You are no longer outsourcing your joy, your peace, your purpose. You are no longer confusing chemistry for destiny. You've stopped mistaking being triggered for being in love. You've stopped calling your trauma patterns fate. Because now you see, love without awareness is addiction, but love with awareness is liberation. You've loved blindly before. You've given everything, only to watch it slip through fingers trembling with hope. You've begged silence to speak. You've tried to earn what was never meant for you. And every time, the universe whispered not as punishment, but as precision. Let it go. There is something more. And you fought that message. You raged against it. You cursed the sky and clutched the pieces of what you once called love. But eventually, you obeyed. You let go not with bitterness, but with reverence. You released the illusion, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring for yourself. And that moment, that silent surrender, that was when the real healing began. Because healing isn't about never hurting again. It's about loving yourself through the hurt so deeply that it loses its power to define you. Now, the ache comes and you no longer run. You sit with it. You ask, what are you here to teach me? And the pain becomes your guru. The heartbreak becomes your oracle. The loss becomes your lens. You stop needing others to behave a certain way for you to be at peace. You stop trying to control what was never yours to hold. You stop demanding love be a fortress when it was always meant to be a flow. Because love, true love, isn't possession. It's presence. It doesn't bind. It beholds. It doesn't cling. It reveres. It doesn't save you. It sees you. And you've seen yourself now through pain, through loss, through unbearable vulnerability. You've stood naked in your truth. And you didn't die. You rose, not harder, softer, not colder, clearer, not detached, devoted to what is real, to what is whole, to what is holy. You understand now. The ones who broke you were not enemies. They were mirrors, carriers of the lessons your soul came here to learn. They were not the path. They were the push. And you blessed them for it, not because they were kind, but because they were necessary. You don't need an apology anymore. You don't need the closure. You don't need the explanation. You've made peace with the silence. You've turned pain into prayer. You've made a temple out of your grief. And now, every breath is sacred. Every heartbeat is a hymn. Every tear that once fell in the dark is now light on your skin. Because you stayed. You didn't abandon yourself when it got hard. You didn't abandon yourself when they did. You didn't abandon yourself when everything in you wanted to disappear. You stayed. And now you shine. Not because life is perfect, but because you are present, because you no longer run from your own depth, because you have walked the longest road there is from seeking love outside to finding it within. You are not finished. You are just beginning. You are not healed. You are healing. You are not invincible. But you are no longer afraid of being seen, being known, being cracked open by beauty or broken by truth. You are here, and that is enough. You are the dance between pain and love. You are the wound and the wonder, the ache and the answer, the silence and the song. And now that you know, live like it. Walk the earth like it. Speak with the clarity of one who has suffered and still says, I choose love. Not because it's easy, but because it's eternal. And this choice to love again, to stay soft in a world that hardens everything it touches, is not weakness. It is the fiercest rebellion. Because when you choose love after devastation, after betrayal, after abandonment, you are not choosing naivety, you are choosing resurrection. You are choosing to rise not as you were, but as something entirely new, something forged by fire, tempered by grief, sculpted by silence. This is not the love that waits for conditions to be perfect. This is not the love that needs guarantees. This is not the love that performs, manipulates, or clings. This is the love that sees clearly and stays anyway. The kind of love that Rumi wrote of. A love that cannot be lost because it was never borrowed. A love that does not arrive from outside, but is awakened from within. A love that asks nothing but your complete surrender to what already lives inside you. So you stop asking if someone else will love you the way you deserve. You start asking, am I loving myself the way I deserve? And then, slowly, you begin. You touch your own wounds with reverence. You speak to your own soul with kindness. You stop punishing yourself for not being what they needed. You stop abandoning yourself to be chosen. You stop apologizing for being deep, intense, or wide open. Because now you understand your depth is not a liability. It's your superpower. The ones who couldn't handle your depths were not wrong. They were just not ready. Not built for the gravity of your presence. And that is not your shame to carry. You were never too much. They were simply not enough to hold what you bring. So you stop shrinking. You stop silencing. You stop performing. You begin to live as if your truth is holy. Because at Island, you begin to speak with conviction, to move with certainty, to honor your yes with fire, to protect your no with steel, not from ego, but from sacred self-awareness. Because when you finally see who you are truly, nakedly, gloriously, you refuse to negotiate that truth for anyone. Not for love, not for attention, not for belonging. You belong to yourself now. And that is not loneliness. That is sovereignty. You walk the path now not to be found, but to be remembered. To become so grounded in your own soul that nothing external can uproot you. Not rejection, not betrayal, not loss. You do not chase love. You attract it through your embodiment. You do not beg for connection. You radiate it through your clarity. You do not explain your worth. You express it in how you breathe, how you walk, how you remain whole in a world addicted to halves. This is the Rumi way, the mystic way, to be shattered by beauty, broken by longing, pierced by presence, and still choose to love deeper. To sit in the ruins of a past self, look up at the stars bleeding through the cracks, and whisper, more. More life, more love, more so. Not less, not smaller, not safer, more. You become unafraid of pain, not because it no longer hurts, but because you've made peace with its purpose. It is the chisel, the mirror, the teacher, and you no longer resist the lesson. You receive it, you bow to it, and then you rise with it inside your bones. So now, when love comes again, and it will, you are ready. Not desperate, not addicted, ready. Ready to receive, not consume. ready to give, not prove, ready to share, not surrender yourself. And if that love leaves again, you'll mourn, you'll weep, but you won't collapse, because you're no longer building homes inside people. You've built one inside yourself, and it's warm, and it's wild, and it welcomes all of you, the broken, the brilliant, the becoming, because you no longer see your pain as a mistake. You see it as a map. You follow it not back into suffering, but forward into wholeness. And in that wholeness, you are finally free, not untouchable, but unshakable, not invulnerable, but fully alive. And that aliveness is the gift. That is what it means to dance between pain and love, not to be spared from either, but to be so open to both that you become a bridge between heaven and earth. You are not here to avoid the storm. You are here to become the sky. And so you stand now, not as the person who never fell, but as the one who kept rising. You are no longer waiting for someone to rescue you from the ache, from the void, from the silence. You have sat with it. You have danced in it. You have become fluent in its language. And now you carry a power that no one gave you because no one could. It was forged in the moments no one saw, in the tears that fell with no witness, in the prayers whispered into a darkness that didn't answer but listened. You are no longer asking, why did it hurt? You are asking, what did it awaken? Because now you know the pain was not punishment. It was preparation. It broke the shell, but not the soul. It dissolved the illusion, but not the essence. It stripped away what was never real to reveal what always was. And in that revelation you met yourself, raw, radiant, reborn. You've become the flame and the ashes, the question and the answer, the ache and the healing. And when people ask you how you became so calm, so clear, so powerful, you will not give them a 10-step method. You will not sell them a shortcut. You will look into their eyes and say, I stopped running. Dablift. I stopped betraying myself. I made love with my pain until it turned to light. Because that's what this path, island, not a straight line, not a clean escape, but a sacred spiral, back to your heart, back to your truth, back to the original fire within you that knew even before the world told you otherwise that you were meant for something more than survival. You were meant for love, but not the kind that fills your emptiness, the kind that overflows from your fullness. So now you love without chains, you walk without fear, you speak without apology. You hold your own hand in the dark and know this is enough. You are enough. You have always been enough. You just needed to lose the world to find yourself. And now that you have, you are no longer the one searching for the light. You are the one who is the light. And from this place, you love, you live, you lead. And above all, you remain.